Hello, beautiful souls. Lori Rising here, star channeler, sacred guide, and evolutionary astrologer. Welcome to the Mercury Retrograde in Capricorn and Sagittarius. That's happening right now. And right now is Saturday, December 16th. You probably are feeling some things, probably have some tears flowing. And I just want to tell you that you are right on time. So well done, you. Yes, this is how it works. The astrological weather, the cosmic tides come in and they want to co-create with us. And they really show up through your nervous system. So what are the messages that you're getting? And when you're getting a lot of feelings flood through, or there's confusion, there's an inability to concentrate or focus, it means you're being asked to change that environment and go to some place or something that's going to create more clarity for you. And my guess right now is that's going to be nature, fresh air, feet on the ground, guided meditation, breath work, movement, dance, sound. There are so many ways that you can let yourself get into the floating energy that's really drawing you up right now. But if you try to keep hustling and grinding and forcing and producing, it's only going to get more uncomfortable. So, like I said, today on December 16th, we also have the exact square between the Sun in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces. These energies want nothing to do with your physical reality. They don't want anything to do with being grounded. They don't want you to be in any state of control. They want you to be high. They want you to rise into the higher dimensions, into your higher guidance system. They want you to expand, to grow, to be more in dream time than in wake time. So really pay attention to what's coming through. There's some clarity that's arriving in the dreams right now. So this can be a great time for, self-reflective journal work, for dream journaling, right? Or just as soon as you wake up, doing a brain dump in your journal just to really let out what arrived during that consciousness connection, where you have a strong pineal gland that's being activated right now. Also, we had the strongest X-class solar flare since 2017, and these little bodies are still integrating the light codes, the intensity, the energy, the plasmic light that shows up with those solar flares. And so that can make us feel a little bit more clogged as well, on top of this square with Neptune and the Mercury retrograde. I mean, forget about it. I can't even believe I'm attempting to do this video during this time, but that's how my channel works. It's an intuitive channel that taps into the energies as is, because all of the healing and transformation and disruption in our lives is found in the present moment, y'all. Truth bomb, it's found in the present moment. It is not in the stories you're running from the past. It's not in the fears that you're holding about the future. It is right here, right now. I've been talking a lot about stories with all of my containers, especially since I offered the Path Masterclass, which was amazing. If you didn't have a chance to come, I am still offering day one for free. So check that out in the links below, because it's going to really, really support you during this Mercury retrograde, especially while it's in Capricorn. I promise you. But the stories, what I'm feeling into with the stories that we run is basically, they're the only thing that hold us back. They're the only thing that dim our light. They're the only thing that actually contribute to the frequency that we're running for how we magnetize and manifest our life. So the story is the root, but the root is actually in the body of the story that's running. And when we can clear it from the body, the mind actually comes right along for the ride. But when we try to clear it through the mind, it stays surface, right? It doesn't ever get down into the body. So, energy, if we can think of how our energy moves up, that's what's happening. The roots that we plant are below us, and then they grow and they come into the body, and then they go up, and then that becomes the frequency, the harvest, what's produced from the seed of creation that we planted in the roots. So this is something that I really want to actually drop into with this Mercury retrograde. But first of all, if you are new to the channel, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Like I said, my name is Lori Rising of the rawandwildhearts.com. Please hit that subscribe button right here. You can do it right now. Declaration, and hit the notification bell so that you are alerted anytime I drop my messages, because my channel is very much in the present moment. My videos aren't going to show up a month beforehand like many people's do. It's because I want to feel what we are doing, what we're working with right here, right now. And like this video, if you're getting support, that really helps me to know that these downloads are making a difference out there. And it actually gives me momentum to come back and share more. And if you really want to go further, declare your empowerment of your vulnerability and your trust in communities that are of like spirits, that are matching your frequency, like this one, and comment below. Let's really start opening up that discussion. And this is where we are all the student and teacher. We co-create together and we learn in beautiful ways. So I look forward to dropping in with you in those comments below. Now, in this video, I'm just going to do a quick hit about the Mercury retrograde because I feel like there's a big opportunity here and I don't want it to pass us by, because that means when we say yes and we do the work in this retrograde, when we come back to the next, we're at the next octave. We have moved to a new level and phase or realm of ascension. And every time we do, something is going to come through that gives us the precipice that we have to jump off of. It's going to give us our edge. And you have to decide what's going to help you move beyond that edge, because so many of us get to the edge and feel the discomfort and we back up and we keep coming to that edge because life wants us to evolve and grow and move beyond it. But when we're in our control mind and we fear the unknown that we don't have any evidence for yet, then it's almost like we're staying in this incapacitation place, and the same loop, the same trigger keeps coming back, and it might be coming back in different ways in our lives. So let's do this different. Let's do the deep work in this retrograde and see what happens when we move through, because the lineup that's coming up next week is really powerful as well. So let's talk a little bit about the happenings of this retrograde. It began on December 13th at 8 degrees of Capricorn. It's going to move back into Sagittarius on December 23rd. And then it's going to station direct on January 1st at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. And from there, it's going to start moving forward, and it'll be in its post-retrograde shadow period until it reaches that 8 degrees of Capricorn again on January 20th. Now, the post-retrograde shadow period is going to be more easeful and flowing than the pre-retrograde shadow period, because that was really a building. And this is kind of like an expelling. This is an integration of what got revealed and what we're really implementing in our physical reality now in this experience. So what happens in the lineup next week is we've got the winter solstice on December 21st, which, by the way, I have a free event on Insight Timer. Please come join us. It's such a beautiful space of ascension and integration. I have something very special planned for this winter solstice. Winter solstice is actually my very favorite portal of the whole year. Lionsgate is a close second, but I absolutely love, love, love this one. I love Death for the Rebirth. And this is, in the Northern Hemisphere, the darkest of our days. So this is where we really embrace the shadow. We embrace the internal self and the inner resource that we are. And knowing that we came in with all that we need. We came in with innate healing. We came in with innate guidance. And then we start to come back out into the light, where we start connecting with community and co-creating and sharing, and things that really lift us up when we connect in those ways. So it's almost like the zodiac wheel, right? The zodiac wheel doesn't begin until the spring equinox, but the Aries, the first house, is really, it's like the baby that's coming into the world. It's filterless. And then we move through and eventually we get to the relationship. So it's like the self coming to being. And then how do we start relating in relationships? And then how do we go into the bigger world? And then how do we expand into the universe by the time we get to Pisces and we have the death of whatever didn't serve us through that whole wheel? But I especially love the winter solstice because this really is a beautiful time of declaring that whatever it is, the loop, the trigger, the story is no longer going to be a part of who you are and who you are becoming. More to come on that. The link to join the winter solstice event is below. Now, December 22nd is when Mercury in retrograde conjuncts the sun, which is a cazimi. So the sun is really going to highlight whatever's come up for you in the retrograde up until that point. And it can create even a bigger energy around it. So that can feel a little overwhelming. Or the sun can really take you into like bringing this into the light of your experience and your life. And really, it might be that final piece where you just hold whatever showed up in the Capricorn energies on this beautiful platter of where does this fit and where doesn't it fit and how am I going to move forward from here? Because then it's the next day that the Mercury retrograde goes back into Sagittarius, which is where we get expansive in the higher wisdom, the higher truth, really getting into that, like how much bigger can we go beyond the duality that divides, beyond the I'm right, you're wrong, beyond the contrast that, you know, has been weaponized against us, but actually holding the space for all of it and having that knowledge of, it's almost like having the knowledge of the book of life is what it feels like. The knowledge of the quantum field, which is within ourselves, which is what we are tapping more and more into. So that's going to be an opportunity at the end to solidify it in your soul. Now I'm going to back up a little bit into the Capricorn energies because what this feels like, now of course, Mercury is the mind, it's the thoughts, it's how we communicate, right? And then Capricorn is our public life. It's our public persona. It's an energy that knows how to do things really well. It's the work horse of the zodiac, and it's likes to be in rules and it likes to have systems and structures in place. It's really, really good at creating that. So Capricorn is really, it's ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the physical mastery of this life. So Capricorn is a very earthbound sign, right? So this is the how are things unfolding in our physical world and reality. So this to me is we're reworking and reviewing the systems of our mind. This can also be a reworking and reviewing of our work life, of our job, of our vocation, of how we show up, how others see us on that public stage of life. But to me, this really is this opportunity to do things different in the mind and do them. It's almost like a clarity of the mind and where you're going to go with the new system or structure. And that's why I feel like I've been doing all of this deep work in the last, month since the Path Masterclass on stories, because they are so potent, they're so powerful, and they're actually, when you start rising up in those Sagittarius energies and you start feeling the power of unity consciousness, where you stop needing external validation or you need other people to be a certain way in order for you to find alignment, you find it all through your inner resources. Wow. It's incredible what shows up from there, because then you actually get to create this whole new mind and the stories change very easily. So the thing that I want to drop into here that I feel like needs to be highlighted is where we can get stuck, where we start over identifying with the core wounds, with the generational patterns, and with the traumas of our life. Now, I know that this is a very sensitive area and I want to hold space for that, but I also just want you to feel what I'm saying And even if you feel a resistance to, or even a trigger to it right now, let it sit with you and let yourself just check in on that energy over this retrograde, because there has to be a point where there's a declaration. There has to be a place where we strengthen the mind, because the mind can easily just keep tapping back into those habits and those patterns, especially if they've been running for generations. The mind is very, very strong. And when we've been focusing mind first and control and physical reality first instead of energetic foundation, we're kind of working backwards. And that's where we're having to work so hard to create the change. Now, this can lead us to being in this loop of victim consciousness, or that need that I was talking about for validation in order to get our experience in alignment. And that's why these communities are so important, because when you find a community that is in your frequency, you start to open up in vulnerable ways and in trust. So you can actually transform these struggles that have been coming up without the complication of how you view yourself through the other eyes of the people in your community because of how they've seen you in the past. I hope you stayed with me through that. And this is where I always talk to people in my containers. I'm like, this is your opportunity to practice being the person that doesn't dim your light, to practice being the doing the thing that you've always dreamed of or wanted to do, but you've held yourself back from, because then you feel the results of it. Until you take yourself past the edge in some way, you will keep letting yourself stay in this reliance of what you've known. And if what you've known is the trauma or the core wound or the pattern, it can keep getting you sucked back in and again and again. And we've been trained, unfortunately, in our medical system. Again, all of our systems, and it's funny, I'm talking about Capricorn, but all of our systems are created to disempower us, because the way that they keep functioning is by having power and, getting profit and control and everything like that. So the medical system has had us in this loop of validating talk therapy, when talk therapy has only been surface. It's stayed within the mind, when in reality, any experience that we have, the emotion of it is the driver of that experience. The mind creates the story from the emotion that gets imprinted. And when we create a story in the mind, that's what creates the suffering of the experience. When we don't allow ourselves to go through the process of feeling, because we don't feel safe in our community when we actually have one of these experiences, emotional or physical experiences, and we feel like we have to just buck it up, we have to get back to life, we have to put on a brave face, we've got to survive, so we've got to go to work and just shove it down, bypass it, distract ourselves from it, then it only solidifies it deeper and deeper within the body. And then we create more stress and tension in our worlds. So we've got to get to the root here. And we also have to actually participate in strengthening of the mind. So when we get lazy about life, we just let our minds go to what they've always known and what they have evidence for. When you start participating, you realize that when you want to go to your dream or your highest timeline, strengthening the mind is a part of it. Actually changing those stories, creating a belief in the new, whatever it is, whether it's a visualization, it's an idea, it's a want, it's a desire. Who are you when you have that? So this is very different, because when we say I want something, that comes from a place of lack. When we say I have something, that actually up levels our energy and helps create the person that we have to be to have that. If we stay in the lack or the desire, then we have all of the excuses in the world to never become the person that has it, because we don't have the evidence for it there. So we've really got to look at, unfortunately, the limitations of soul mind therapy, because it's almost like a validation loop that allows us to just keep staying in that victim consciousness where we get validated for it, and then it keeps the power in it in our body. So this is where we have to decide during this Mercury retrograde while it's in Capricorn that we're going to review how our minds have been working in the system that they've been trained in, and how are we going to show up and participate for a new way of our mind doing it. So people that really do go for their dreams and they do not get swayed by the external circumstances, there's certain markers that happen along the way. One of them is that they hold the highest timeline. They hold their dream beyond any physical evidence that they have around them. Another one is that they get a coach or a mentor. Just like in the Olympics, y'all, the people that make it to the Olympics do not get there without a coach or a mentor. This is training for life. This is training for evolution and change and transformation and your birthright of living in divinity and liberation, no matter what's happening around you. They also continue to show up. They create the belief in what's possible beyond what they have known so far. They also strengthen the mind. They continue to condition the mind beyond what it's absorbing on an everyday basis. This comes down to your stream of consciousness as well. Make it easier on yourself. Create a stream of consciousness of where you can go, of how you can get there in more ease, of being in the ebb and flow and not beating yourself up about it, but yet having the declaration of where you're going from it. Because when the challenge comes, when the shadow comes, when this dark winter's night comes and shows up, what's ready to die in your life so that you can rebirth on that next level? How do you embrace it? Because when you embrace it and you allow yourself to feel it, while staying in what it's there for is actually to help you grow. You cannot move into the next state of ascension, of soul growth, of higher dimensional living without something showing up for you to get there, without you practicing on something to move beyond that edge, or else you would already be there. So I hope this makes sense, because by the time you get back to the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, that's going to have you review your connection with the higher self, with the higher guides, higher wisdom, higher truth. And how can you find it in a new way that's going to solidify what came up in the Capricorn energy? Because Capricorn can get a little too complacent in the rules and regulations of life, of the physical world, because it's Saturn. So you've got to allow yourself to move beyond that in how it can look in the physical world of your life, and hold those rules or those systems as your timeline. And who do you become living, having that, even though you don't have it now? So that's the last piece of people that really go for their dreams and experience their dreams in whatever way they're meant to show up. They make the moves and they become the person that has the dream. They take the risks. So I want to leave you with the power of ongoing coaching or mentorship, because it's a whole new paradigm. It's a whole new system that we didn't get trained in, because you don't have the opportunity to bypass. This is holistic. It's integrative. At least when you work with me, it is. It's not just the mind. It's the mind, the body, the soul, the energy, the spirit. And that is when we get to the root transformation. And that's where it lifts up into the mind, and we don't have to work so hard through the mind to feel the liberation in this life, which is our birthright. And it's also our birthright to live in the divinity and majesty of being guided instead of having to force and find and manipulate and control, because that has been pretty much the dominant narrative of where we've gotten to today. And if we look around today, I know that if you're here, this is not the world that you want to live in, but you know the world that we're going to live in because we're creating it. especially if you are showing up in any of my containers. Now, will just let you know that I have one private mentorship that's open through the winter, and it is for the person that knows that they are ready to jump off the precipice. They know that they are done with this internal struggle, and they're going to show up to do the work, and they're going to reap the benefits and results of that. And it really is a life of alignment. It's a life of trust. You will trust yourself, you will trust each other, and you will trust in life. Please send me a message if that's interesting to you, Lori at therawandwildhearts.com. And of course, definitely jump into my free day one of the Path Masterclass, and that's going to share a little bit more of this journey, especially through the mind, which couldn't be more perfect for the Mercury retrograde that we're moving through right now. So y'all, I hope that you have a very fruitful Mercury retrograde and ascension as we move into higher and higher octaves on this planet and in the collective together. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, don't forget to keep looking up.